You mentioned Carroll. That's the next game I wanted to get into. Northside at Carroll this week. After being on the road for the first 2 weeks, Carroll finally gets to host an SAC game. They're 2-0. You mentioned they're scoring prolifically. What is the biggest key against Northside? Because I know Ryan Hall, I was at part of the game on Friday night at Chambers Field. Ryan Hall was not happy with the way that his team was playing defensively, and Carroll is not going to let up on them when you've got Aiden Smith and the number of guys they have at the skill positions.
Yeah. I think it is very tough with a team, with a lot of teams that can beat you deep, to take a lot of chances defensively. And, you know, it's very tough. I know, talking to Coach Hall, and he said, you know, our secondary, we just don't know what we have there. They just got beat too many times on Friday. And I don't know, maybe you just got to play it safe in the SAC this year defensively. You just sit in a zone or something and take stuff away from them and not take chances, because teams are going to make you pay. There's going to be 5, 6, 7 teams in this conference that can beat you over the top and vertically and deep. That's exactly what Homestead did to Northside repeatedly, and they didn't have to throw it deep. They were dinking and dunking and just, you know, blowing them up. So I believe Carroll is Homestead on steroids. That offense, is even better than Homestead most weeks, just because of Aiden Smith and the talent he's got around him. As good as those wide receivers are at Homestead, comparable guys, I think, with Carroll, younger, but I think comparable. Alex Anzavino can run the ball. Just a lot of weapons at Carroll. So whatever Northside did last week, they got to change, or those kids, like I mentioned, looking across the field and seeing those kids, they got to understand that they can beat them, and not kind of already think, okay, now we finally get to show Homestead what we can do. Because last week Homestead showed them what we can do, and this week it could be Carroll.
We talk a lot about Carroll and Homestead's offense, but really, for me coming in, it was can they withstand the athletes defensively in the SAC? And granted, Carroll has played at Southside and Northrop, although Northrop, we saw last week, Northrop is improving and has some guys that can make plays. But Northside's offense has played pretty well this year.
Yeah.
So given that this is a different challenge, how do you see Carroll's defense playing against Northside's offense? What are some of the big keys in that matchup for this game?
Well, I think if anybody had a favor this year in the scheduling, it was Carroll, because you don't want to take anything away from their first two opponents, but it really did allow them to ease into the SAC. Now, they're going to have a gauntlet second half of the schedule.
Right.
But they were the team that you kind of looked at and said, okay, they get to kind of test some things out the first couple weeks. Now maybe a first real big test with Northside. Offensively, Northside just needs to get, I think, that running game going a little bit more, taking some of the pressure off Ariane Nieves. He missed a couple passes Friday, but the kid can run. He can throw. He needs a little bit of help from his wide receivers a little bit. But there's a lot of pieces at Northside. They just need to put it together, and I think that's what Coach Hall is trying to do. He will do it, just those kids need to stay with it. I think the issue last year was Northside started off and just lost those back-to-back games, 1-point losses to Wayne and Dwanger. It kind of just derailed the kids, and he kind of lost them. I think this year, if those kids stay focused, they could be a better team than last year. But you could be a better team this year and have a similar record that you did last year.
Or a worse record, yeah.
Yeah, just in the nature of the SAC this year, because you don't get the schedule. And Northside, they played Mishawaka and Delta, 2 solid teams out of conference. But you look at maybe a Southside can't schedule a South Dearborn and an Indy Northwest out of conference to kind of get that confidence up. I mean, it's all conference games.
Yeah. You mentioned the Carroll schedule. Their next 4 after this week: at Homestead, at Snyder, home versus Lures, and then at Bishop Dwenger.
Have fun with that.
That is a gauntlet. I know Doug Dinan actually mentioned that during Media Day about a month ago.
I mean, he called it like Amen Corner or something like that.
Yeah, that was his quote. He called it Amen Corner. You just got to hope.